Long ago, in the ancient world near the sunny Mediterranean Sea, there lived a group of people called the Philistines. They were part of a mysterious group known as the Sea Peoples, and they came from far across the sea, possibly from places we now call Greece or Crete. When they settled down, they chose a beautiful coastal area and built 5 big cities, naming them Gaza, Ashkelon, Ashdod, Ekron, and Gath. Imagine a pentagon shape. That's how their cities were arranged. The Nephilim are mentioned in the Bible in the book of Genesis 6:1-4 as the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men before the flood. It is often interpreted by many scholars as referring to fallen angels who mated with human women, resulting in a race of giants known as the Nephilim. The term is often translated as giants, and these beings are described as mighty and of great renown. Often, the Philistines were described the same way. Genesis 6, verse 4. This is the first mention of Nephilim, occurring in the context of the antediluvian world. This passage introduces the Nephilim at the time when human beings began to increase in number on the earth. The verses describe the sons of God marrying the daughters of humans, and their offspring are referred to as Nephilim, who were the heroes of old, men of renown. This passage is the first mention and often cited when discussing the origins of these giant beings in biblical texts. Numbers 13:33. The spies sent by Moses to explore Canaan report seeing Nephilim, or beings like them, in the land, describing them as giants that made the Israelites seem like grasshoppers in comparison. Stories of the Philistines were known for being very strong and clever, especially in building things and making plans for battles. There's a working theory that the seed of the Nephilim bloodline survived the flood because spirits never die, that their spirits went into the sea creatures to survive the flood. The story of the flood never says that God destroyed the sea creatures. Maybe there's a connection there. The connection between the Philistines and the Nephilim is usually drawn through the stories of giants in the land of Canaan, which later became part of Philistia, where some of the Philistine cities were located. Goliath, described in 1 Samuel 17 as a giant from the city of Gath, one of the Philistine cities. His height and prowess in battle might suggest to some a link to the giant lineage. More on this giant later. Descendants of Anak. When the Israelite spies mentioned giants in the land of Canaan, Numbers 13:33, they specifically referred to the descendants of Anak. While not explicitly called Nephilim, their description aligns with the idea of unusually tall and strong individuals. Some of these Anakim were later associated with Philistine cities, particularly Gath. Found in Genesis 14:5, Deuteronomy 2 verse 11, and Deuteronomy 3:11, among other verses, the Rephaim are another group of ancient people considered to be giants. Deuteronomy 3:11 discusses King Og of Bashan, who was said to be the last of the Rephaim, and mentions his iron bed, emphasizing his extraordinary size. Mentioned in Deuteronomy 2 verse 10-11, the Emim were another ancient group living in Moab, described as being as tall and fearsome as the Anakim. Found in Deuteronomy 2 verse 20, Zamzummim were also referred to as a people great and tall, similar to the Anakim. The Philistines had their own gods and goddesses. One of their main gods was Dagon. Dag in Hebrew means fish, and the Philistines celebrated with big statues and temples. But just like in any exciting story, things didn't always go well for the Philistines. Big empires like the Assyrians and Babylonians came along, and these powerful neighbors conquered the Philistines' lands. Over time, These conquerors changed the Philistine cities so much that they weren't just Philistine anymore. Despite their cities and power fading into history, the Philistines left a mark on the world. In fact, the name of their homeland, Philistia, is where we get the modern name Palestine. Today, when people talk about the Philistines, they remember them not just as warriors from old stories, but also as skilled builders and artists. The sun beat down upon the valley of Elah, where two armies faced each other, poised for a brutal clash. On one side, the Philistines, their bronze armor gleaming menacingly. On the other, the Israelites, fear etched on their faces. A monstrous figure emerged from the Philistine ranks. It was Goliath of Gath, a towering giant, easily 9 feet tall. His bronze helmet shone, and his scale mail coat clinked with every earth-shaking step. The spear he carried was like a weaver's beam, its iron head glinting with deadly promise. He bellowed a challenge, his voice echoing through the valley, daring any Israelite to face him in single combat. King Saul and his men were paralyzed with terror. For 40 long days, Goliath's taunts had chipped away at their courage. Then, a young shepherd boy named David arrived, sent by his father with supplies for his brothers. He heard Goliath's arrogant defiance, and his youthful face flushed with righteous anger. David, small but resolute, approached King Saul. He declared he would fight the giant. Saul, skeptical, pointed out David's youth and inexperience. But David recounted tales of battling lions and bears to protect his flock, his voice ringing with unwavering faith. "The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion will deliver me from this Philistine." Saul, moved by David's unwavering conviction, relented. He offered his own armor, but David found it cumbersome and unfamiliar. Instead, he chose his shepherd's staff, his trusty sling, and 5 smooth stones from the nearby brook. As David approached Goliath, the giant roared with laughter, mocking the boy's youth and apparent weakness. "Am I a dog," he bellowed, "that you come at me with sticks?" David, undeterred, replied with unwavering faith, "You come against me with sword, spear, and shield, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied." Goliath lumbered forward, and David ran towards him. He reached into his pouch, retrieved a stone, and with a practiced whirl of his sling, launched it with pinpoint accuracy. The stone struck Goliath squarely in the forehead, sinking deep into his flesh. The giant crashed to the ground with a deafening thud. The fallen giant was seized by his own massive sword, and with a swift stroke, his head was severed. A collective gasp arose from the Philistine army, followed by a wave of panic. The Israelites, emboldened by David's victory, charged forward with a mighty roar, routing the Philistines. David, the humble shepherd boy, had become a hero, his faith and courage saving Israel from a seemingly insurmountable foe. He carried Goliath's head to Jerusalem, a symbol of God's power and a testament to the courage of the young, insignificant person who dared to defy a giant. If you found this video interesting, please comment, share, like, and subscribe. And friends, as always, keep seeking wisdom and truth.